Jag frågade Alan Wilder varför man spelade in den här filmen och varför man spelade in live-LPn. Vad tillförde gruppens musik?
I'm not sure what it adds. We wanted to make a live album and a film because it was such a long tour, and we felt we had to document it somehow. It would be such a shame to do that much playing and not have a record of it. So that's really the reason. And it also is there to keep things going while we make another record, you know, 'cause otherwise it's a long gap.
Mm. But you also made a film to complete this entire project. Why?
Well, to my mind, the film is a lot more interesting than the record, you know, because the record it's a good live album, you know, and it's exciting sounding, but most people don't buy records to hear something live, you know. But the film, for me, is a lot more exciting because it contains a lot more than just the performance, but it also gives a good record of that performance as well. And it just is a very interesting story and an interesting record of what happened during that time.
The album and the film is recorded, shot in Pasadena, California. How do you feel when you enter a stage and have a crowd of some 70 or 75,000 people in front of you?
Well, you feel a little bit awestruck by it. You have all kinds of different feelings. You have a certain amount of nerves. You're excited. You're anxious that things will go smoothly. You're anxious to know whether people are going to enjoy it right at the back of the stadium. All of those things. But it was something we wanted to do. We wanted to end the tour in a special way, and it seemed that the only special way we could do was to do an extra big concert. And that's really the only part of the world where we could play to that many people in one day. So it seemed like a good idea.
Alan Wilder är också den senaste medlemmen i Depeche Mode. Det var ju han som efterträdde Vince Clarke. Hade han då någon aning om vad inträdet i gruppen skulle betyda för honom och för hans framtid?
Not really. I mean, I was hoping that we would be successful, and the band had already been successful at that time, but was still very young. I was also quite young at the time, and I was just happy to be involved in something where I could make a little bit of money, because I'd never made any money until then, and play music, you know. And at the time, just to be able to do something I enjoyed and earn a living from it was bliss, you know. But obviously your expectations become more as you get older, and you want more from life, and you want more from music. So, you know, there's certain aspects that didn't become so enjoyable. When I first joined the group, for example, I enjoyed doing everything. I enjoyed doing interviews, I enjoyed doing televisions, I enjoyed doing concerts, I enjoyed being in the studio. Now, I only really enjoy being in the studio.
Yeah, you're kind of, say, the knobs and trigger guy of the band.
Maybe, yeah.
You're the guy behind the sounds, really?
Well, not all of them, but some
Most of them.
Well, yeah, okay.
Now that Depeche Mode has become such a great success worldwide, has that changed the way you're making music?
No, I don't think so. I think our approach to making music has remained fairly much the same. Our attitude is to make music for ourselves. You can't cater for other people because there's too many opinions to listen to. You can't listen to everyone's opinion, so you've got to trust your own instinct about what you think is good and what you like. And luckily, other people have liked it so far. It's a mistake to try and make music for your public.
When Martin writes the songs, and let's say you create the sound of Depeche Mode to a great extent anyway, how do you work the songs out together? How do you create them?
Well, it's a long process, much like putting a jigsaw together, you know. Martin starts off by writing a song, which is fairly complete in that it has most of the lyrics and main melody there.
At that stage, you work with guitar or piano or
Yeah,
something?
usually on an acoustic guitar, and then he might do a very rough demo involving one or two, a sort of one rhythm and a bass line or something. And then we all listen to the songs, and then we decide which songs we're going to work on and start working on them, which involves a certain amount of programming and then going into the studio and starting to gather sounds and putting the structure of the song, getting that right. But we all work together on the sounds, particularly Martin and myself work together on that. But Martin, rather unusually for a songwriter, loses interest in the studio. He prefers the art of writing more than anything else, I think. And when it comes to actually producing that record or making it into a finished product, he starts to lose interest as that goes on, because it's a long process and he really prefers to work a bit faster. But I think because we've set ourselves certain standards, we can only do things in a certain period of time, otherwise the standard will go down. So we have to spend time on these things, and I'm more relaxed about spending longer time in the studio, so inevitably I end up maybe doing a bit more.
Det speciella sound, det finns ett speciellt sound för Depeche Mode. Det låter som inget annat band. Hur kom det till, frågade jag Alan Wilder, som är mannen bakom Depeche-ljudet i mycket, mycket hög grad.
There's no magic answer, Firstly, it's very difficult to actually hear that, being so close to the group. When you're involved in this thing like we are, when people say you have a unique sound, it always intrigues me that they say that, because I can't hear that unique sound necessarily. I know that obviously because we must have something that is unique, and it's really just to do with the mixture of the people involved, that somehow the whole compromise of what we do ends up with this kind of unique sound. But there's no one place that it comes from. It's a mixture of loads of different ideas and different people's ways of thinking, and then we can't conclude with some kind of result, But I can't really explain it.
Being interested in the sound of the band as you are you interested in sounds in general? Are you listening to new sounds when you get out into the street or get into a new environment?
Yeah, I think I'm more tuned into sound than a lot of people possibly, Or if you're a musician, you are, I think, always aware of sound and perspectives of sound. Do you know what I mean? We're not listening out for new sounds, because new sounds there's always new sounds, there's sound all around all the time. So you're always going to be able to find some new way of creating a sound, or a new approach to working with sound. So I'm not sort of going down the street thinking, ooh, I want that sound. But sometimes you do hear sounds in the street or in a unusual situation that you think, I could use that, If I did this with that sound, I could do something,
Men vi ska fortsätta vårt samtal med Alan Wilder från Depeche Mode.
Radio Stockholm, cocktail.
Some critics, at least in Sweden, find you boring on stage since you're so tied up with your instruments that only Dave really can move about. Do you feel that that puts a limit to you in any way?
Possibly, but on the other hand, I don't find four people all running around the stage particularly exciting. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you have to run around the stage to be exciting. I think the energy comes from a whole group of different things, that I don't know. It's quite a complex thing what actually creates all that energy that comes off a stage. But I think the whole show, the visual side of the show, mainly comes from the lighting, really.